Testing.
Good evening. Today is Monday, July 22nd. We are at the Green Ladle and we'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We will start committee member introductions with Councilor Harriman.
Scott Harriman, City Council Representative to the School Committee.
Donna Gallant, Ward 7.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6.
Craig Charpentier, Ward 4.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Phoenix McLaughlin, Ward 1.
Megan Parks at large.
Jake Lang, the superintendent.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Our rep from Ward 5 is absent excused tonight. Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like set aside? Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Agenda item number 4 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personnel matters, or a student issue should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comment shall be directed to the school committee and be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Before starting, please state your name, address, and affiliation to Lewiston Public Schools. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we will move to agenda item number 5, which is to receive the ESEA Annual Federal Programs Presentation.
Okay, thank you. Just getting myself situated. Press to talk. There's an arrow. I'm good. Good evening. My name is Jenny Darrigan. I'm the District Federal Program Coordinator. And I'm thankful to be here tonight to talk about the funding landscape for federal programs this upcoming school year. Get some context around the work that the district and many folks across the district do to get our application completed and our CNAs completed. I'll define all of that for you tonight. But I appreciate the time being here for that. Let's see. One tech issue. Thank you. All right. Jake, do I move this along or do you?
So just give me a point and I'll.
All right, gotcha. All right, I'm good for goals. Again, the Federal Program Coordinator, and the work that I do is in collaboration with the teaching and learning team out of the central office and definitely across all schools and all programs in Lewiston. Tonight, I'm going to provide an overview of federal grant, some state grant work in Lewiston. So we have some context around what we currently have. Provide an overview of ESEA specifically and the funding channels that ESEA brings for Lewiston Public Schools. Explain the process and the pieces that are in place for the work to determine the use of funds. And I'll be referring to CNAs a lot today, and CNA stands for Comprehensive Needs Assessments. We have goals and priorities to share with the school committee tonight that will be included in our FY25 federal programs application. And we also have created a Google form as a platform to receive public comment on all of the pieces that I'm speaking to tonight. So part of the reason I'm here tonight is to ensure that we review all of these pieces and offer public comment for our school committee and for our public. Right to the next one is good, Jake. Thanks. So in Lewiston, the district manages about 120 grants every school year. These grants can be federal, non-federal, federal and state, variety of all of those combined. Notably, the federal grants are our largest in amount, and make up a lot of the fund, for the amount of grants, make up a huge portion of that. Hit it one more time, Jake, for me. I think it's going to populate perfectly. There. Okay. And for this chart, I just put up a few of the federal grants that we are currently working with, to give a bit of context on our bigs. COVID relief funding, we definitely have several federal grants that we're still working with, closing out at this time even, or some of them just beginning. Special education, of course, has a large federal grant, IDEA, with a few sub-grants within that. We have many other federal and state grants that are a bit of more of a standalone or serve a program in Lewiston, like our adult ed program, or our LRTC program, 21st Century program, and others. This is not a comprehensive list of grants, but ones you may recognize from the grant workbook that the financial office provides to the school committee. The focus for today are the ESCA grants. So I just wanted to paint a picture of sort of the federal funding as a group, and then the ones we're going to zoom in on and talk about today. Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV are grouped together because they all fall under ESCA, or Elementary and Secondary Education Act. We apply for these funds as a group. We receive approval for use of funds as a group. And so they are grouped together with the work and what we do to move all of that forward. The next slide is just going to define ESCA a little bit in more detail. The ESCA Act, Elementary and Secondary Education Act, I'm actually going to start at the bottom here, was recently reauthorized and amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act. So basically, this is our education law, the law that directly states and announces that funding will be provided to public districts, public schools across the country. There's been changes or reauthorizations often, not with every new president seat or Senate pieces, but often. And so the one we're working under right now is called ESCA. This act or this law focuses on high standards for public schools and public districts, high accountability measures, which Lewiston has to meet, among all of the pieces that we'll talk about in more detail tonight. But basically it is the primary funding source for both primary and secondary education. Thank you, Jake. So Title I focuses on addressing the needs. Simply there's a lot of language that can fall under Title I, but simply put, it's addressing the needs of disadvantaged students. The funds for Title I are distributed to states and districts and then to schools based on student enrollment counts and based on poverty percentage. So our Title I allocation for Lewiston is based on just that, student enrollment and poverty percentage. Title II is focused on supporting professional development for educators. That funding source is solely used for providing professional learning opportunities for teachers and building principals and support staff. That one is an enrollment base only. Title III is assisting multilingual learners. All funds for Title III are used by our multilingual department. They plan for that. And that is a multilingual student count allocation based on student count. And then Title IV focuses on promoting well-rounded education and safe schools. Safe really focused in the areas of guidance, SEL, student supports, and enrichment. And when we look a little bit more at what Lewiston is doing with Title IV, that will help define that one a little bit better. But again, those are our 4 funding streams. We've received Title I every year for a very long time, but this is a snapshot of the last 8 years just to take a look at the funding amounts. We not all the time, but typically seen an increase of Title I year after year. We did not this year. Unfortunately, we have a loss of about $63,000 in Title I funds. So we are responding and planning for that with our budgets. The Title I allocation for Lewiston Public Schools is dependent on the state of Maine allocation, which is dependent on how the federal government allocates state amounts. So it really goes back to the federal government for those percentages. And the states are ultimately the amount per state is based on poverty percentage within that state, and not necessarily compared to year prior for Maine, but compared to how all other states ranked. So that's a bit about how that's determined. Title II, for the past several years, we've seen a steady increase or Title II funds for Lewiston Public School. We are at about $509,000 this upcoming school year. And again, this is our professional development grant. Title III has a little bit more of up and down depending on our multilingual student count. We are at about $221,000 for this upcoming school year. In Title IV, we are at about $363,000 for this upcoming school year. Definite steady increase with this particular funding source, and you'll notice a huge jump from way back in 2017. That is when the federal government and the state of Maine changed formula for distribution. There was equal distribution across districts prior to that year, and then they changed to being a student count formula, which really aligns with what they do mostly with all other title grants. So we continue to benefit from Title IV greatly. So tonight, what I'm hoping to do is explain each section of this wheel here separately, but really the goal is to see how they work together. Coming to a decision about how we're going to use title funds, all Title I, II, III, and IV are all based on a lot of work that has been conducted by folks across our district, and the work that's been conducted over the last full school year. So all of these pieces do come together and help establish really our request to the state of Maine. All of these pieces are requirements for us to be subawardees of title funds. So in addition to being requirements, a lot of this work really supports school improvement across the district. But we will talk about our funding amounts, how the CNAs play a role in that, how the federal application plays a role in that, and of course, some of our strategic planning pieces. The Comprehensive Needs Assessment for Schools, also known as the CNA, are pretty massive documents. I believe they were included in the packet for folks electronically. The comprehensive needs assessment is a living, breathing document for our Title I school-wide schools and for our district as a whole. We are required to have CNAs for each school-wide Title I school-wide school, and we're required to have one as a district. So the work of gathering and analyzing data happens throughout the entire school year. Groups, leadership teams at school buildings and the district leadership and data team begin doing this work in the fall. It's conducted throughout the school year, and we're really right now we're sort of at a wrap-up time. And wrap-up not meaning that any of this work, even the documents themselves, are coming to a close, but we're sort of pausing, wrapping up a school year's worth of work, and in the fall we'll be reopening them and starting again. So very much a living, breathing document that, yes, includes a lot of data, includes the analysis of that data by, again, teams of staff and other stakeholders across the district. Huge emphasis on identifying strengths and areas for improvement from the data that we look at, and ultimately obtaining a holistic understanding of what the school's needs and challenges are, putting that down on paper, having action steps to support the work moving forward, and having that work documented really for the schools to refer to and use as a tool to move forward, in addition to submitting to the state for all of the requirement pieces that we have for CNAs. This next slide is something I'm not going to read each section out loud, but certainly something you can refer to. A great comprehensive needs assessment is certainly going to have lots of different pieces in it. Our comprehensive needs assessment is really based on the framework of what an educational institution would have for a CNA. Our goal is to, again, do our data analysis work, and use that to inform our decision-making pieces, use that to identify action steps to move forward, build in a system where we can monitor and evaluate, and also have a system where we can report out. Any questions about the CNA work?
Hi, I did look over the slides that we got, and I noticed they're like 394 pages of information, and that's just so much. Do you folks have a reduction paper? One
Yeah.
of those new things coming out of reduction paper stuff. I mean, it just seems like it's very heavy.
It is. So the CNA that you looked at, yes, they're all about 300 to 400 pages long. Section 2 is the bulk of the CNA, which really is all of the data. We have specific sections within the CNA that you can go to see a summary. Most of those sections are towards the end in section, is it 13 and 14? Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Section 13 and 14 has a strategic plan for the schools or for the district as a whole, a summary for the use of the funds for the upcoming school year, a summary of the areas for improvement. And so ultimately it's within it, but you can get to a section in the CNA that is easy, much easier to do a quicker overview on. That's a great question. They are enormous. The data sets that we have in section 2 and what make the CNAs so rich really is that our required data sets and then data sets that stakeholder teams wanted to have in CNAs to help with that analysis work. And just dig really deep into data.
Does the community have access to those reports?
Yes. So every year, around this time, we post our finalized CNAs to the district website. So right now, under the ESCA tab on the district website, you will find all school-wide CNAs and the district CNA. You'll find information from the presentation tonight, including a 2-page summary for use of funds, and that might actually be very helpful as well. It isn't school specific, but it does list the ways we'll be using the money this upcoming school year. So there are a few different places to look for an overview, but the CNA itself, it's sort of embedded towards the end. You're welcome.
Member Eames.
My question was about how to get a hold of this PowerPoint. So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's on the district website.
It is. It's there
Okay.
right now.
That hadn't
Yeah.
been shared with us, just in case you all didn't know that.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
got posted today. It is up now.
Member McLaughlin.
Thanks. Yeah. What would you say you found to be the most surprising or interesting or notable findings or something new from the CNA for this year? Or any of the CNAs, I guess, whether it's the district wide or one of the school specific ones. I mean, anything that jumped out to you?
Well, I think I'll note something that the stakeholder teams noticed. One and ended up being an area for improvement and a finding that we found. We do parent, student, and staff surveys. And we looked closely at participation percentages for surveys. We are really looking for a lot of voice, but not having the percent of a majority that we want to be able to make conclusions on. So I'd say that it wasn't necessarily surprising, but it was brought to our attention through analysis. With every survey that we offered, we really are looking for ways to improve completion on surveys across the board.
Yeah, I think we feel the same actually as a school committee. So thank you.
Yeah. The surveys directly impact our goals, specifically around family engagement, and school climate and student well-being. So they're very, very important to the data and to the conversation that the stakeholder teams have when we're looking at goals. Some of the other goals that I will share tonight too around academic goals, those are non-survey data pieces. So we have our own challenges with some of that. For example, the state hasn't posted our most recent spring assessment state scores yet. And that's been delayed a bit. So we're waiting. So we do have some delays, or we have, the survey percentage complete has been noted. Yeah. So after the annual work of stakeholder teams, at the schools and at the district level, we begin preparing an application for the upcoming school year. So that work is being conducted right now. The application for federal funds just to request and secure is due on August 1st. And so that the work of really moving our findings and goal work into the application for submission, those pieces are happening now, and so that process is happening. The application, again, sorry, I'm just reiterating myself, but we have to apply for it. We have to be approved. Within the application, we have very comprehensive project descriptions, how we'll be using the money, what the budgets are, what coding we'll be using, all of our goals that are aligned with the projects. And we wait, we submit on August 1 or around August 1, and we usually receive approval at the beginning of September. So it's a quick but urgent turnaround because school is starting then too. So, but that is the cycle of the award. So I'm just going to present some of our goals for this upcoming school year. These can be found right in our district CNA. These are the goals out of the district CNA. And what you'll notice when you look into the school-wide CNAs, they will have school-level goals, each independent of their own school building. So I'd just like to point out that these ones are from the district CNA. So an overall picture of really pre-K through 12 combined. Having academic achievement goals is a requirement. We have a reading goal to increase the percentage of students whose growth percentile exceeds the 50th percentile in NWA reading by 2% from last spring to the spring of 2025. We have a similar goal for math for student achievement across the district, all grades combined who participate in NWEA state assessment. The final goal here for improving student academic outcomes is an attendance goal. We are looking to, see, I can't read that from here. To increase the percentage of students with no absence issues by 5%. We are looking to see more students in school every day, regularly. For our grouping of, for our grouping of school climate and well-being goals, we have a goal focused on increasing positive feedback from students through our survey, our panorama survey work, building connections, so increasing positive feedback from students regarding sense of belonging and other well-being survey pieces, and then decreasing our moderate and high-risk behaviors, and we use a student risk screening scale for that particular goal.
A question. These are the goals for next year. Do you address the following year if those goals were met?
Mhm.
And where would you find that?
Yep, we do. November is the time when the state asks for what we call a performance report, and we report out on the goals. So the goals that we wrote for last year will be reported out in November and available. And that's, again, a very cycle thing. It's always November. So the school year will come to an end. A new one will even begin, but then the reporting will be finalized. And that is for a reason of ultimately ensuring that all data sets are able to be documented and used to even report out on the goals. I'm going to head to the next one, please, Jake. For Title I, I wanted to zoom in on some of the projects we are spending funds on, so that you could see that. For district projects for our overall Title I allocation is almost $3.5 million. So this is how we're spending $3.5 million of Title I funds. For district projects, we are paying for a portion of 2 positions, a federal program position and a reading recovery district teacher leader position. We have 3 required projects in the district category. Lewiston is required to provide a portion of the funding to non-public schools that are located within Lewiston. We are currently, we have 5 non-public schools that meet that criteria. We currently have 1 choosing to participate this upcoming school year, and that's St. Dom's. We are required to have a homeless programming project within our application. We use many different funds to support the homeless program for Lewiston Public Schools. Title I contributes to that, and we have a project in there for that, for some work in that program. We're also required to reserve a minimum of 1% of our Title I allocation for parent engagement activities. And so we do that every year, our 1% or more amount. And so for this Title I amount, it's about $35,000 will be used by schools to plan for parent engagement activities and conduct parent engagement work in their school buildings. For school-wide projects, each Title I school has a Title I budget, and included in those budgets are math interventionists, literacy interventionists, reading recovery teachers, math and literacy coaches, funds designated for PD in the areas of math, literacy, SEL, restorative practices, responsive classroom, and a lot more. Also, student instructional supplies are available in many of our Title I budgets. And any other cost allowable under Title I, schools are allowed to plan for and use. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
My question is, so we get a chunk of money for Title I, okay? And that goes towards these objectives, projects. Is there a time when the amount is over the amount that we get the funds for, and we're paying that difference? Is that clear? Like, okay, say we get 3 million for these projects. If those projects overrun cost of that 3 million, does that happen? And if so, where does that money come from?
Go ahead.
We try to avoid cost overruns because the grant doesn't support it. There are some things, like some positions that are split between general fund and title grant fund, or a grant and title funds. So there's lots of ways to get to that place. But Jenny's talking about it a fair amount, but the plan that gets approved has numbers as part of the process. So it's known, and we plan accordingly. Like, for instance, this year with a really tight budget, people were looking at what might they have to cut out of title because there won't be local funds to do the matching or whatever other piece is connected to it. Other important things of note, folks who are employed by way of title funds cost us more because it's a federal grant and there are different tax and contributions. It comes out of the title funds, but 1 for 1, local or federal, it costs us different money. So those are things that we have to quantify each year. So if you have someone that's a Title I, say that K-6 max math interventionist, when they get their step raised by contract, it changes in the title plan.
To add to that, in theory, for our Title I budgets to cover costs of staff that we have on our Title I budgets, our allocation would need to at least increase enough to cover those annual increases of staff. So we that is something else that we were working very closely with the last few weeks to see what we could do about,
So my question was really related to that. So we're down 66K from last year to this year. I
Mhm.
mean, this year to next year.
Mhm.
So why and how are we adapting? But first of all, why? Like, what
Yeah.
happened?
The why is that the state of Maine allocation was less than what the state of Maine allocation was.
You said
last-
that, but why?
Oh, other states across the nation had higher poverty percentages than Maine. Yeah, and so then they would be ranked and distributed accordingly, which is a very similar system to what we do at the district level. Our schools are even ranked and the funds are distributed in that way. Mhm.
And I'll just speak to your other question about how we sort of handling that. Jenny and I have met and meet regularly with the building principals to go over their budget, to create the budget, but then also to check in on that budget, whether it's the spending or any increases that might be coming. So for example, if someone's health benefits change and there's an increase to needing to cover, so to your point, the health benefits, we need to cut from someplace else. So it might be coming from the instructional supplies to cover the cost of that increase. Or it might be we may not be able to, the school may not be able to send as many folks to the PD that they were planning to do that. But I want to just add that because we have, the professional development is a good example. Because as Jenny shared with our Title II funds, if professional development is an area that can't be covered in Title I, Jenny and I work to figure out how can we use the Title II funds to help support that same activity to help meet those goals. I will say throughout the last couple of years, because we've had ESSER funds and because we've been given waivers by the state in terms of the money that we can carry over. So really at the end of the year, if you haven't spent your federal funds, it's supposed to be returned. But with all this other grant money that we have had, the state and the federal government have given districts waivers because of the need to spend, say, COVID money first, right? Before our title funds. So those funds are coming to an end, as we all know. And then we were given a waiver this year to carry over some funds. So some schools have been fortunate in that, yes, their allocation in their Title I allocation has gone down, but because they may have had leftover funds from the year before, we've been able to cover that. But that's not the case everywhere. So principals and leadership teams have had to make some difficult decisions, just like we all did for the local budget. And that has resulted in people shifting out of positions. That's resulted in not being able to put professional development in those grants. It's all of those things. So the same sort of process that you all go through with the local, Jenny and I work with the principals to do that same thing with our Title I funds.
And just one note too, you can't supplant with Title I funds. So you couldn't look at it like a tight budget and say, okay, how much of this could we put in title? That's against the rules of the funding. So we're not allowed to do that.
Mhm. Okay, can hop to Title II. Hop to the next one, Jake. Thank you. For the Title II use of funds, I just, again, not a comprehensive list, but an idea of planned activities that we will be using Title II to support this upcoming school year. UMaine literacy and math coursework. We have a partnership with UMaine, and so that's going to be continuing to support teachers across the district. Reading recovery coursework to support our reading recovery program and teachers in that area, serving that area. We pay for a national board certified teacher stipend. This is an individual who supports teachers walking through national board certification and all of the pieces to that. We will be using Title II in all areas of PD. PBIS, restorative practice, literacy, math, STEM. This funding source we use for registration costs, course costs, any travel expenses associated with a PD experience, and even book study, purchase of book study materials to run book studies within schools. So if the purpose is for professional learning, then Title II is very likely to be the grant it will land in. Oh, and one last thing about Title II, I just wanted to point out that St. Dom's, again, being a participant, will have access to some of the Title II funds as well. And that's based off of the student count. So Lewiston residents, Lewiston students who attend St. Dom's.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So is St. Dom's, since they're getting it sort of secondary through Lewiston Public Schools, do they have the same requirements? They can only use it for like professional development, or can they use it however they want? Or do they have the same limitations, I guess?
Most of the same limitations. There are a few additional limitations they have being a non-public, but the intent and purpose of Title II remains the same for St. Dom's. Yeah. We are, excuse me, we are the fiscal agents for any of the non-public schools that choose to participate. So we work directly with the principal over at St. Dom's, and we plan for the projects and plan for the budget and do check-ins and pieces like that to keep it moving along. But yep.
And was it just Title II that has that component, not 1, 3, and 4?
It is 1, 2, and 4. Any non-publics have the option to participate in 3 as well. St. Dom's chooses not to. Yeah, so the non-publics that meet the criteria to participate can choose 1 fund or all 4, and it really depends on what their needs are and how much they receive.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. So Title III, again, this is for our serving our multilingual students. This upcoming school year, the multilingual team will be using Title III for supplemental instructional supplies. Core supplies are paid for with local as a requirement. Title III must be supplemental. The 3D curriculum materials for a pilot project at Geiger for multilingual is something that the multilingual team will be using funds for. Continuing some additional supplemental PD for English 3D and for SciOp. And they also have a built-in parent engagement project within Title III that they need to meet. This past year, our multilingual team used parent engagement funds out of Title III to purchase interpreter vests for visibility at parent events and for some interpretation costs of parent events. Title IV for this one, I will stop here to break Title IV down a little bit. Title IV is offered out in 3 buckets. Well-rounded is what I use to refer to the first bucket. Oh, it's escaping me. This is terrible. Well-rounded. Which one am I missing? An SEL bucket. The second one is definitely an SEL bucket, and I'm just forgetting the actual name to that one. I apologize. And the third one is a technology bucket for Title IV. Okay, thank you. Doesn't give it really enough detail for that one. They're a little vague. They're a little vague anyways. There's a lot of different uses of Title IV across these 3 buckets. And I say the buckets because we really have to sort our projects into 3 buckets. So we do a lot of work with organizing Title IV and making sure we spend Title IV per the Title IV formula. At least 20% of our allocation needs to be spent in well-rounded. At a minimum of 20% needs to be spent in our SEL bucket. And some funds need to be spent out of our technology bucket in Title IV. So we work within 3 buckets for Title IV. This upcoming school year, we will be using Title IV to support a behavioral interventionist at Farwell Elementary, a behavioral strategist at Montello, an RTI coordinator at Connors. And the asterisk there is it's a percentage of that position, but not the whole. We'll continue to support our guidance supervision project, which is an activity that supports our school counselors across the district. A district instrument project, which we started this year and will be continuing into the following year. It's purchase of instruments for students and families so that we have inventory that's accessible to all students and their interests. The technology project that we always have some folks who need Power School training, and so we use Title IV funds to support that PD work. We'll continue to support our use of Panorama Survey and the Panorama platform, which is where we house all of our student, staff, and most of parent surveys anyways are on that platform. And we use that to capture our data that we need. STEM supplies come out of Title IV. SCL specific PD can and will be paid for with Title IV. And then again, the equitable services for St. Dom's, they'll receive a portion of Title IV. So this last, I'm happy to field any other questions about all of these pieces. But here you can find a link to the district website, which again, we have the slide, a 2-page summary for use of funds on there, and then every school-wide is there to refer to. And then my contact information too for anything to follow up on. The public comment, if anyone has any comment they want to share, question, concern, celebration for any of this work, right on the front page of Lewiston Public Schools website, you'll find a blurb for like kind of sending you to the Google form link to having an opportunity for public comment.
Any questions from committee members? Member Hurd?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. So I don't remember ever having this before, like this kind of presentation. Do we have it every year? I feel like I don't remember. Maybe I'm drawing a blank. I'm blacking out, but
vacation season.
yeah, I didn't know if it was possible. I feel like this would be really good for budget and for the general public just to see like where these funds come from, because I feel like we had a lot of questions of like different positions and how that gets paid for, and does that come out of the general fund, and can we just cut that position, and can we, you know what I mean? So I don't know if it's possible to get this out or like ready before budget cycle. I don't know if that's too soon.
The cycle of preparation is built around the federal government's budget cycle. That's why it's a September piece. It has to be before you by the end of July. That's why we have it before, usually in July. But this stays up on our website year round. So this is available at any time.
Okay, yeah, and I don't know if it's possible to like share it in the packet of stuff that we get for budget, you know what I mean? If you just put it together with all the budget stuff, instead of people having to like actually go on the website and like find it, if it's just already with the budget packet that they can.
It's like 1,000 pages.
I'm just saying, like, even this
One full
slideshow, I'm not asking for like the CNA and all that stuff. I'm saying literally that just this information, so people can see like what positions are covered by what title funds, what goes where, so that again, we avoid that whole, well, why can't we get rid of this position and just cut this? Or why can't we, you know what I mean? Like it's more information out there for the general public to see and fully understand. Like those positions don't come out of the general fund. Like those positions are paid for by federal money. So there's no point to even discuss it because we can't even touch those positions. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny and Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Oh, yep, go ahead, Member Reams.
Do you have any sense of why, or anyone here have any sense of why the 4 private schools that don't take the funds, don't take the funds? Is it because of the federal, well, I didn't know if it was the bureaucracy of it or the openness of it, like which, or maybe both.
So. No, no,
Never
no,
mind
no,
if you don't want to
no,
answer.
no, I'm laughing because I think every school has a different reason for not participating. But honestly, the biggest reason I think is it's the amount of money that they get compared to the amount of work that needs to be done. And it's also, so when Jenny talks about St. Dom's and us being the fiscal agent, it's down to so they have an interventionist that works at St. Dom's, but they're actually a Lewiston Public School employee. Because we are issued the grant funds, the employee is not employed by St. Dom's, they're employed by us, but they work at St. Dom's because they're paid through the grant fund. So even that is confusing, right? So to say, well, I work at St. Dom's, but I'm, all of those things. Same with summer school. They've done summer school in the past. Well, all of their teachers that work summer school get a Lewiston Public School paycheck. So they have to become an employee of us for the summer. So I think it's really which makes sense. We're the one that gets the money, but I think it's about the amount of work it takes. And for some schools, it's not a lot of funds to do a lot of different projects that maybe they would want to do.
Yeah, I would think communities like Cape Elizabeth and North Yarmouth, those communities probably would not qualify for some of these federal funds.
What are the other 4 schools in Lewiston?
Lewiston is the largest receiver of title funding in the state of Maine. The other non-publics that are offered opportunity to participate are Spurwink, and I believe there's 2 locations for Spurwink in Lewiston, and Margaret Murphy. 1 Spurwink, 2 Margaret Murphy locations, and then no, not Acadia. Sorry. St. Dom's, and there's one other. Oh, Christian. Good. Yes. Is that
That
Greater
makes sense.
Christian
Okay, I
or
was forgetting about that one.
Yeah, and the allocation amount is dependent on the students that are Lewiston residents that attend that program in that school. So it could absolutely be very little funding to the amount that St. Dom's receives for Title I is about 21,000. For Title II, about 15,000, and for Title IV, about 17,000. And we've worked with other non-publics in the past, and it's been very little amount, like a $1,500 amount. So quickly, folks do realize that is difficult, but it is available and it is offered every year.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you again, Jenny. Agenda item number 6 is report from the school committee chair. So the school committee members outside of Lewiston Public Schools on our own personally pulled together some funds to sponsor a balloon for the Hot Air Balloon Festival. And part of that sponsorship, we were awarded, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, a hot air balloon ride for 2 people. None of the committee members want to utilize that. And so we've made the decision to open it up to Lewiston Public Schools employees. So if any Lewiston Public School employee is interested in a hot air balloon ride for 2 at the Balloon Festival next month, the dates of the Balloon Festival are the 16th, 17th, and 18th. I think that the balloon rides will be on the 17th Saturday, but I'm not 100% sure. So I just want to put that out there in case people are away for vacation and wouldn't be eligible to do that. But if anybody is interested, you can send an email to my email address, which is mparks@lewistonpublicschools.org. And by this Friday, July 26th at noon, and the school committee members will do a drawing and pick a Lewiston Public Schools employee to win a hot air balloon ride. And if you have any other questions, just let any of us school committee members know, and we'll be happy to answer that. Did I cover everything I was supposed to cover?
When will we?
Oh,
When
we will
will we
do the
do the
drawing
drawing?
at our August 12th school committee meeting so that everybody will know who won. Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is report from the superintendent.
Nothing really new since last week, except we're full steam ahead.
Quick. Report from our city council rep.
All I have is tomorrow we have a city council workshop, 6:00 PM. And we are both, we have 2 workshops. We are having a presentation or discussion with a consulting firm that will help with recruitment and hiring of a city administrator. And we also are talking about the business licensing ordinance for homeless shelters. So we discussed with the planning board the shelter overlay, which basically says where you can put a shelter, and this is all the other regulations around shelters. That's all I've got for now.
Thank you for all of that. Agenda item number 9 is updates from subcommittees. Has anyone met that wants to provide an update? Member Eames?
We just met, as you know, and we did work through our way through quite a number, like probably 10 policies. And one of them will be about the fundraising question raised last meeting. So next meeting, we'll actually discuss that, but also the other ones. And yeah.
Thank you. Any other committees, subcommittees in that? Nope. Okay. Any school committee community announcements? Counselor Harriman.
I just wanted to mention that Healthy Neighborhoods is still doing their bulky waste cleanup in the Tree Streets neighborhood. It's on the first Friday and Saturday of each month. There are 2 more events this summer, so August and September, and they are in need of volunteers to help with that. So you can look up Healthy Neighborhoods on Facebook, or if you're not able to find that, send me an email, and volunteers get one of these nifty t-shirts right here.
And it's not all physical work either. If you can't like lift or drag stuff or anything, you can help in other ways. There's less physical ways to be involved.
Yes, there are people staying in the tent to answer questions from people, and yeah, other things like that.
So there was a question last time about the backpack or the kickoff, and I hope that you received Natasha Turcotte's email, but just to publicly say, the Lewiston Public Schools Summer Outreach 2024 backpack event will be on August 22nd from 3 to 6 at the Longley campus. And there will be all kinds of activities, and I believe there's also a barbecue as well, so.
Thank you. Agenda item 11 is any future agenda items? No? Okay. Agenda item 12 is to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Moved by member Hurd, seconded by member Bowden. All in favor? School committee is adjourned at 6:28 PM.